Until you're given no other option, you're very unlikely to make what you're doing a success. I literally had, I think, 10 days to make enough money to pay my mortgage. Did my stuff, did my outreach, reached out to people, and yeah, I got my first client on day 11, which was like a relief. It wasn't going to pay my bills, but it was a relief. Day 28, I'd actually fully replaced my income. So I'd got like 3 clients by then. And then day 77, so 2.5 months in, I'd 5x my monthly salary. So it was like crazy whirlwind of emotions.
After listening to this conversation, you have no excuse not to succeed. James left school with no qualifications, and after losing his job was able to 5x his income after 78 days. Tune into the episode where we break down how we got this done. And guys, you know what to do. If you're liking the content, like, subscribe, share, comment. It does wonders for the show. Now enjoy. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What My Best Friend Does, where we talk about what your best friends do, because let's be honest, nobody actually knows. Today, I'm joined by my best friend, the founder, James. How you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. Thanks very much. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Welcome to the show. We like to start with a little icebreaker. What did you want to be growing up?
So growing up, I think typically, right, like most boys, I'm sure that have been in this program, being a footballer is a typical answer. But for me, I think I also love James Bond films.
Okay.
Even from a young age,
Yeah.
I got like obsessed with like spies and everything about it. So I'd probably say like footballer, but also like a spy. I really love the idea of doing that.
Okay, two very contrasting careers, but you didn't end up in either.
No, I didn't.
You've obviously
secret spy, but that's about it.
yeah. Actually, you wouldn't tell me. Yeah, but yeah, obviously knowing you, I know that you're a founder now.
Yeah.
But your journey to becoming a founder is like one of the most interesting I've ever heard. So without too much pressure, take us back through your employment journey and what has led to you starting your own business.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah, starting right at the beginning. So left school, no qualifications, went straight into being a chef.
Wow.
So I've actually been with my wife since we were 15.
Wow.
So her mum owned a pub. I lived literally just around the corner. So the first job I ever got was washing dishes in the pub. Ended up then learning to be a chef with my now father-in-law, and did that for 6 years, in total, 5.5 years. Right. So I was a chef till I was 21, decided that, you know, it's not the best career to have when you're looking to build a family and stuff like that. Got married quite young. So decided like sales, a few people I knew were in sales. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how do I get a sales job? So I typed into Google, how do you get into a sales job? Came up, telemarketing. So I literally called every single telemarketing company, I think in like a 20-mile radius. Yeah. And just started sales there really. So went from telemarketing into software sales and then was in software sales for about 10 years.
Wow.
So got to about 33 and decided that now was the time to start a business. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more in depth than that, to be honest with you. I'm sure we'll go into it. But yeah, made the big leap, Feb 23, and then we're 15 months on today. So started the business, and it's going strong.
Okay, great. So if we take it way back, right? You mentioned the fact that you left school with no qualifications. Yeah. When you went to start working in the pub, like did you have an inkling as to, you know, you wanted to do sales at that point and you were biding your time, or was it just a case, you know, I just needed to earn some money and I'll get whatever job comes?
Yeah, good question. I think I was lacking real guidance at that age, kind of that part of my life, and going into a kitchen is incredible for anybody that wants a bit of direction. So I think I was seeking more direction and support and that kind of thing. So even when I was a chef at 16, you know, when I was going 18, 19, I always wanted to go and work in the best restaurants. Yeah. So worked my way up through different Rosette restaurants and went to a Michelin star restaurant. So I've always had that hunger to want to do well, not necessarily kind of monetary focused or seniority focused. I just wanted to fulfill and do as well as I could. Mm-hmm. So that's always been with me. So even when I was working in the kitchens, it was, how can I keep progressing? How can I end up working in a better restaurant? So yeah, I mean, even back then I've had this, I suppose it's a little bit entrepreneurial spirit of like wanting to kind of fulfill my potential and go as far as I can in whatever I'm doing. I always knew, I think, deep down that would lead to me doing something on my own, whether it be in a kitchen, in sales, could have been anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I kind of knew quite early that I was very driven.
Yeah, I love that.
For sure.
And then you mentioned the fact that you were in sales for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's obviously an incredibly long time.
Yeah.
Talk us through like some of those experiences. So, did you work your way up? Were you SMB? Were you mid-market? Were you enterprise? Did you manage? Yeah, can you take us through some of those roles in that 10-year period?
Yeah, absolutely. So I literally started as low as you can go. So when I started in sales, it's a completely different field for me. So I remember the first day, right, I walked in to the sales office. It was a telemarketing company. And essentially, for anybody listening, right, what they essentially do is they will work with businesses, let's say, for example, DHL, and you will then act like a DHL employee, but you're not. You're working for a company, but you're calling up people trying to sell their services as a DHL employee. Yeah. So the difficult thing about that, or the challenging thing about that, is you have to learn everything about that business before you pick up the phone. Because if you call up and you're like, "Oh, James here calling from DHL," and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, how much does it cost for 2 containers of this size to go from here to here?"
Yeah.
And you don't know the answer. It's really like, you don't want to be in that position.
Yeah,
so essentially, it's I started right at the bottom, completely no experience, was so daunting. Trying to just pick things up as much as possible. But the first 2-3 years in that business was incredible for me, because I realised if you just continue to work hard, you can kind of almost achieve. And even simple things like organisation. I remember I was getting married, so I left for 2 weeks my honeymoon, and I wrote this like massive handover. And I was just an AE, like a junior AE, what to do, what's going on with my clients, when I need to call them, what meetings we can get booked in. And I gave it to the MD, and she was just completely amazed that like someone would write such a detailed handover. But that comes from being in the kitchen. Yeah, I kind of say this with my father-in-law all the time, right? We call it, mise en place is like getting ready in the kitchen. Same for any job, right? You prepare everything, because if you're in a kitchen and you haven't, for example, prepared something simple for a dish, it's not an option, because what are you going to do? Not serve it? Yeah, you're working in a Michelin-star restaurant. So I kind of took that mentality into sales, and I got a phone call literally just before I was going on my honeymoon and basically offering me a promotion to management. I think I'd been there like 6-7 months. Simply just because of my organisation skills. But that was great, because I got my first taste of management, which is very, very daunting as well. Managing people that are older than you, all these different challenges.
What would you say, it was probably some time ago now, but yeah, what was your key learning from being a manager be? Is there anything that sticks out?
Everyone is different, and don't judge people on your own standards. I think that's something that a lot of people do, is like, well, I'm good at this and I do this really well, so all my team are going to do it really well. When the reality is everybody's got their own individual skill set. Yeah. So the second that you stop thinking all of these people I'm managing have got to be like me, you'll start to see progress really quickly. So I learned that really, really early on, is like, don't judge everyone on your own skill set.
And then something I've found interesting talking to people on this podcast is individual contributors versus management. Yeah. What do you prefer?
Individual contributor.
Yeah,
for sure. Because it's the one thing that you can lead by. Well, you can lead by example, being a great manager, but there's nothing like doing the job so well that no one's got any other choice but to respect you. And I think that's a real unique thing in leadership, in sales, in a number of things. You're kind of untouchable if you're someone that leads by example and gets the results that you're trying to get everybody else to get. Yeah. And I love that aspect of it. And it's also, you're almost a lone ranger in a contributor role. You haven't got to worry about the team. You haven't got to worry about the management meetings, the gossip, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that causes stress when you get home, and you can just focus on yourself. So I love that part of it.
And you were in sales a long time, and you'd obviously gone into it with no prior experience. Yeah. In terms of how you picked up methodologies and learned and became a better salesman. To anybody who's listening to this and might be starting their career in sales, what would your advice be to them in order to further their career and improve?
Be a very good listener. Be vulnerable. Try not to have an ego. Everyone's equal, and you have to make sure that when you're going into something and you want to try and thrive, you need to let down your barriers, because as soon as you start to go, become prickly, or I know that, or don't need to learn that anymore, it's just going to be your biggest downfall. And I would also say to anyone that's looking to get into sales or improve their sales skills, is like, work on your soft skills. Selling years ago was always about relationships. It still is today. People forget.
Yeah,
they think it's very much about the software and the tech and how much you know about it and that kind of thing. It really isn't. It is at some point, because you need to justify the sale, but the reality is people want to talk to people
100%.
that they really connect with.
Yeah.
So focusing on them, their role, what they're struggling with, how could you help them achieve their goals? What's keeping them up at night? That's the kind of stuff that is going to draw that buyer into you.
Yeah.
And I think there's deals I've done over the years, my team, myself, that we should no way have won the business. No way in a million years. But I think we won the business in those occasions because we worked so hard on the relationship. And the human in everybody doesn't like to let people down. So if you work really hard on that, you'll find people just stay loyal to you, and they'll go with you. Even if the software's not as good as the other one, they still feel loyal enough to want to stick around. So
CSM can deal with it once you got it over the line.
Exactly.
All right, so that brings us closer to today. And as we've mentioned, you founded your own business. Can you talk to us about the origins of the business, what it is the business is and does?
Yeah, sure. So I started the business in Feb 23, so 15 months ago. Essentially, do you want to go into the detail of the story of why it started as well?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. So I was left in a very, very difficult position. So going all the way back to February 23, essentially what I had done in the October was start a very, very small side hustle called Rocket Sales Academy, which was just a Slack channel where entrepreneurs that wanted to learn how to sell could join. They get access to resources, a call with me, very basic, £50 a month, and just start to grow that out basically. So no conflict of interest at all with what I was doing. I did it on the sidelines. But what happened was I got an email from my manager in February basically saying, we need to talk to you in HR. So I was like, okay, this isn't ever good, is it? At 7:30 on a Monday morning. And got pulled into a meeting with the HR director, sales director, the VP of sales, CRO, and essentially said that I breached my contract. Not conflict of interest, but you can't have a side hustle. You have to, it's completely black and white in the contract. So I was, okay, right. It is what it is, because the thing is, I got a taste for business doing that. Yeah. It never went too far. I had 30 members, which is great, but it wasn't going to change my life. Yeah. But it gave me the taste of what was possible. Yeah. So I knew, even when they were going to get rid of me, that I wasn't too sad. I was just a bit like, oh, okay, I'll get a month's notice. It will all be good. Yeah. So anyway, that was not the case. So essentially, they gave me a week's notice.
Wow.
Yeah, a week's notice, which was, I just couldn't process it when they told me. My son, now Albie, who's 15 months old, he was due in 4 weeks from that date. I'd never been out of employment for 20 years. So I'd never missed a month's payment in 20 years. Yeah. So this was the worst ever thing that could ever happen in my eyes.
100%.
So I was just, okay, this is crazy. And it taught me a massive lesson. And the lesson is, until you're given no other option, you're very unlikely to make what you're doing a success.
Yeah.
Until someone says, you've got to go on your own now. You haven't got a job, you've got no money. You've always got that something to step back on. Don't worry about it. I'll do that in 6 months because I've got this job that I can. I was left with a situation where I had no choice. So the other option was get another job. But you think about that, right? You've got to get a job, find a job, which I think would have been relatively okay based on my experience, but it still takes time. Yeah. I've got to interview. I've got to go on onboarding. I've got to, which potentially could include travel away. Baby was due in 4 weeks. I then got to wait 4 weeks to get paid. It wasn't possible. Yeah. So I literally had, I think, 10 days to make enough money to pay my mortgage. So yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, I went into this full mode of like, I have to make this work. So the first 7 days was pure anxiety. Like to the point where like I was grinding my teeth at night thinking, what am I going to do? I've got an 8-year-old, I've got a baby on the way. Like, it's just mad. To thinking about, right, what is my high value skill? What have I done forever? Identified what I've done forever. I've been in sales, I've booked meetings on LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. And mate, just went full pelt on it. It's like, did my stuff, did my outreach, reached out to people. And yeah, I got my first client on day 11.
So this is day 11 of being unemployed, or day 11 of saying, I'm going to start?
From the 7th of Feb. The 7th of Feb was the day that they got rid of me.
Wow.
11 days on from there, I got my first client.
Wow.
Which was like a relief. It wasn't going to pay my bills, but it was a relief. Day 28, I'd actually fully replaced my income. So I'd got like 3 clients by then. And then day 77, so 2.5 months in, I'd 5x my monthly salary.
Wow.
So it was like crazy whirlwind of emotions of like, wow, I've gone from no job to more than I've ever had in 77 days. It was crazy.
And if we just like double click into some of that, right? Yeah. So you have no job. Like you say, it's going to take too long to interview and get another job. So you're going to go out on your own.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you started outreaching to clients.
Yeah.
Is it like based on that Slack channel and like what the services you're offering there, or was it something completely
new, completely new offer? So I thought about that. I thought, right, how many new members have I got to get a month to try and make my salary up? And it was something like 70.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, okay, go back to basics. What is your high value skill? What could you charge the most for? And that's when I went to lead gen. I was like, right, lead generation is a bottleneck for every business. That everybody needs new leads. I've done that forever. So I thought that is going to be the angle. I then had to decide who was I going to target and how I was going to target them. Yeah. So I use like my tools and systems that I use for my clients now, and what I was doing in my software sales job, but did it for my offer, not theirs.
Yeah.
So did the same thing. It just switched it. Messaging changed, target audience changed, and just reached out directly to people and said, look, I've got 13 years sales experience. I now work for myself. Are you in need of new leads for your business? If you are, I'd love to help you and talk you through how I could help you achieve your goals.
And, you know, you said there that like you identified your high value skill.
Yeah.
To somebody, like I listen to this and I'm like, I feel like I know my high value skill, but there are going to be listeners who don't know their high value skill, or maybe they do, but they don't know that that's how to label it. Yeah. For the listener, how do you label and identify your high value skill?
Yeah, exactly. You make a good point though, because even if you haven't got a high value skill, you can learn one. And the first thing to mention here is, someone told me this years ago, and it's so true, it's you only need to be 1 step or 2 steps ahead of someone else to be an authority.
Yeah.
People feel like you've got to go to university to learn the skill to charge for it. You know, if you're looking to learn how to trampoline, and I've done it for a week and you've done it for no days at all, and I can do a front flip, well, I could probably charge you to learn to do a front flip, even though I've been doing it for 7 days. It's the same thing with business. It's like, I thought about a few things, but it's what is the biggest problem I can solve? Because problems and money tend to go together, because people want to spend money to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So if I could figure out what the biggest problem was, i.e. we haven't got enough clients, I could then charge to get them those leads.
Yeah.
And then you can put a price to it. So for example, if I'm looking to sell to I don't know, target a software company, well, I can make a pretty good guess what their average order value is.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking in my head, right, okay, every deal to them is probably worth 50k. So if I can generate them 2 meetings a week, that's 8 a month, and they're closing at 25%, well, I can almost go to them and say, look, if I gave you 8 meetings a month and you close 2 of them and your AOV is 50 grand, I could potentially help you make 100 grand in new business, and I'm only going to charge you X for it.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes so you've got to think that way, because it's like, that's where my high value skill comes in.
Yeah.
It's a high value skill, but it still needs to make business sense to the person you're selling it to.
Yeah.
So how much am I going to get back from the investment? And that's what I did. I just went through and thought, right, that's the problem. That's the cost of the problem. I'm now going to charge for it.
And then the other question I had, like, as you talk about this, because I'm just thinking, like, for anybody who's looking to start their own thing, you mentioned like systems.
Yeah.
And you mentioned taking some systems that you had in place from your current, like from your previous job,
yep,
implementing them into, your new company.
Yep.
I'm not a systems person. to the listener who doesn't feel like they're a systems person, is it something that you've just always known? Is there somewhere where you can go take some templates? Like, how is it you can go about creating some systems?
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I can talk about the sales side of things. So for me, systems become completely like just so valuable because time's our biggest asset.
Yeah.
And what I did was I thought, right, what am I doing every day? I'm spending 3 hours a day prospecting for new companies, whether they're cold calling, email marketing, LinkedIn. How could I reduce that time by automating it or getting systems to do it for me?
Yeah.
So it's just about finding a system or a tool or something that's going to help you optimize your time.
Yeah.
So yeah, sales wise, I thought, right, what's the biggest thing I need? I need something that can help me build a target audience list rather than doing it manually. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator, perfect. You can build a list in maybe 20 minutes. So that's that ticked off. Then if I'm looking to send messages to people, if I was to do that manually and the follow-ups, I'm probably spending 2-3 hours a day doing that, right?
Yeah.
If I get a system to do it that's triggered by actions, so like for example, someone connects to me on LinkedIn and I've automatically told my system to send that person a message 2 hours after they've connected, it just takes away all the legwork. So I've got all that free time. So it's crucial when you're trying to be productive. And it works in any sector. Like just think about what could you do, what could you implement that's going to save you enough time so you can then focus on doing other things, basically.
And if there isn't a software for it, that's a business idea.
Exactly.
Because I'm just thinking about it as you said there.
Yeah.
All right, where do I want to go from there? So, you mentioned that day 77, you 5x'd your business, which is absolutely insane. I know from like following you and, like I said, listening to your tweets, reading your tweets, reading your LinkedIn, you say that if 100 people were to start a business today, fast forward a year, only 8 of those businesses will still be around. Why is the failure rate so high, and why is that that's quite a shocking statistic, right? 92% failure rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jen, the first thing I want to say actually really quickly is, I 5x my salary in 77 days, but the first 12 months is so up and down.
Okay.
I went to 5x back down to 2, went to 6 to 3 to 1 to 5. That first 12 months is so crucial with your learning because you're going to fail and you're going to succeed by, I've got some good revenue coming in, but are my clients getting results? Because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then you realise, well, actually, I can't work with those types of businesses. I've got to try and edit this and adjust it. So it does go up and down. Obviously, I was delighted to get to that so quickly, okay. But lots of learnings getting there, to be honest. I think for me, it's a crazy statistic. 8% of businesses succeed in the first 12 months is mad. But I'm not surprised doing this myself for the first 12 months. I would say that people go into business, and I've seen this firsthand. I've worked with 30 people in the last 12 months, and they feel like because they've got such a great knowledge base and experience, that's enough to build their business. And it's just not. There's so much to it that you need to just learn and pivot. And I think that you need to be patient. I say to people openly now, because I've got another consulting business I started 2 months ago where I help solopreneurs through that first 12-month journey to hopefully kind of increase the numbers of success rate. I say to them, think of the first 12 months of just learning. Yeah. If you can get by, pay your bills, have a bit left over, you're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Don't stretch your ambitions too high in that first 12 months. But that's the problem, mate. It's the fact that people want to be these overnight millionaires because they're watching YouTube videos and someone else did it. Yeah. It's just not reality. Yeah. And I think that's what stops people, because you may be smashing your goals, but someone you're watching on YouTube is doing well better than you. And you're thinking, it's just not worth it. I'm not getting anywhere near them. Yeah. And they pack it in. They just stop. The hunger goes. So I think you've got to keep such a level head with the first 12 months. Be realistic. Set yourself achievable goals. Don't set your expectations too high, and just stay hungry. That would be my goal. If people did that, that number would be so much higher.
Yeah.
Because you're preparing for what's ahead, not this fake, what they think they can achieve.
I've got two directions I want to take this in. So the first one, you've spoken about the first 12 months. You were obviously forced into starting your own business. To somebody who maybe has the luxury of being in full-time employment and is looking to take the plunge, what are like the main considerations, I suppose, before giving up that steady income, right? Saving themselves that anxiety and those panic attacks, before going out alone? That's my first question.
Yeah, 100%. I would say try and get a bit of financial security, and I'm saying this knowing full well how hard it is to live in general. So it's a lot easier said than done. Is to say, I'm going to save 6 months of money. Like, it's not a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what if you can keep some money aside just for that initial financial security? I would say definitely do that. 2-3 months worth of safety. I would also say stop putting it off. So we can all come up with excuses and we can all come up with reasons why we're not taking the plunge. Taking action is the number one reason that I've got to where I am today. And I'm not overly successful. I've made it work and I've still got a long way to go, but I've made it through. And I would say take the plunge if you can, because you're going to learn so much. Even if you fail, right, the first 6 months, those failures are going to fuel your future success.
100%.
So I would say anyone that's in a role looking to start something, or they're doing something and they're just not too sure when to do it, get a bit of financial security and trust yourself. Go for it. There's nothing to lose. You live once, right? You live once on this planet. The worst thing that's going to happen, it's not going to end up how you wanted it to.
Yeah.
But guess what happens? And this happens to every business. Talk to all the best entrepreneurs in the world, right? They tell you, they start a business, they fail. They start the same business and learn from the stuff that failed. It fails again. They start the exact same business and learn from what failed, and then they start to thrive.
Yeah.
So you have to go through that tough time to get out. So I'd say trust yourself, get stuck in. If you can get financial security, do it. But if you can't, I still wouldn't. I would still say go for it.
Okay, and like it's linked to what you've just said there, but for those people who, their mortgage isn't due on Friday, how do you engineer the light up their arse to get them to take action? So you mentioned taking action, right?
Yeah.
Is there, I suppose, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but is there something that they can tell themselves to say, today is the day, like I've got to do that post, I've got to send that email? Like, how do you get that desire, or does it just have to come from within?
Yeah, just strangely enough, I was thinking about this kind of thing earlier, and there is no one in this world that can encourage you enough to take action, and you should never rely on other people as well to encourage you to take action.
Yeah.
It has to come from within. So I would say my advice goes back to trusting yourself again. You know, be brave, because there's nothing I could say like go and watch this podcast or read this book. Like, it might encourage you, but for you to take a leap, it's a massive difference from being interested to I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be brave, be bold, and have the mentality. Like I say, it doesn't matter if you fail. So what have you got to lose? Yeah. There's nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain. So those people, unfortunately, they just will never start. A lot of people will never start because they're really hung up with the fact that they're going to lose their security, money, job, and they can't imagine what would happen if they don't make the business work. Yeah. Where I'm a massive believer that everything happens for a reason anyway. So if you get if you were to just quit your 6-figure job just out of the blue and say I'm going to start a business, I'm a massive believer that you'll make it work. Yeah. Because you have to.
You made your first bit of income on day 11.
Yeah.
How quickly do you have to see something coming in? Because what happens if, I'm listening to this, I quit my 6-figure job, I'm at day 30, your wife, fiance, whatever is looking at you like the rent's past due. Like, is there a point where you have to pivot back? I suppose is my question.
Do you know what, right? The first 12 months was me fighting. And it's funny, right? When like you say, right, let's say you're coming up 3 weeks in, your mortgage due on the Friday. You'll be surprised what you do to try and get that money.
Yeah.
And no deals are perfect at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's so scrappy. It's so messy. But you have to see results. You have to start seeing results because, like I say, what's the other option? So if I was going to say, actually, what could you proactively do is you have to try and solve a problem that needs to be fixed immediately.
Yeah.
I think I've spoken to you about this before, but you've got nice to have problems to be solved, and completely it's keeping me up every night problems you need to solve. So if you're going to go and start a business and you're going to think, right, I've got a month's replacement income, what am I going to do? And your solution is solving a problem that can be solved maybe in 6 weeks, that's going to delay your progress.
Yeah.
So you need to solve a problem immediately. So again, it comes back to preparing yourself and creating an offer that is marketable for immediate results. Some just aren't. They're just not marketable for immediate results. There's something that's going to help in the future. We need stuff that's going to solve problems today.
Yeah.
So it starts from the beginning there. And if you get 2-3 weeks in and people are interested, great. If you're starting to get no progress and it's not a problem that needs to be solved right now, you need to switch it up.
Okay. I'm just thinking about everything you're saying, and I'm thinking about like the podcast. Am I solving the need right now? But no, this makes a lot of sense. So, as a founder, what would you say the most stressful aspect is?
I would say imposter syndrome is a big one. For me anyway. I think anybody that's been in a job for a number of years is going to be used to being told they're doing great at some point. You know, it could be team meetings, could be individual one-to-one appraisals. You know, you've got a safety net around you. Your manager's there, you've got your MD, you're all together as a team, which is great. When you go on your own, all that disappears.
Yeah.
All of it disappears. So when you start to do something completely fresh and new, and let's say something's not going to plan, you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
So that goes over time, and I think it's quite healthy, actually, to be honest. I think it kind of pushes you on to make sure you're doing a better job every day.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can become quite a lot. So I'd say imposter syndrome. First 12 months, definitely. I think the other thing that kind of creeps in is the fact that, you know, again, working in a business, you've got all different departments. You've got marketing, sales, accounting, procurement. You've got everything. All these departments. You just do your job. You know, when you start a business, you are credit control, accountant, marketing, sales, client fulfillment, everything. You're wearing like 100 hats. So that also can become quite overwhelming at times. But it does fade. And again, the whole first 12 months is about learning. And after those 12 months, you tend to kind of find a rhythm that works for you. Yeah. Which is great because that just naturally happens.
I love that. And, you know, you spoke about learning there. I'm thinking, yeah, you know, you said credit control, invoicing, this, that, and the other. I'm sure there's a lot of like self-employed people who, you know, they've had to learn this stuff. Is it just talking to friends? Is it talking to people who have been in that situation before? Like, how is it you've gone about learning these different facets?
I don't think you'll learn them. I think you've just got to do them.
Okay.
And I think you learn on the job.
Okay.
One thing that is really good is joining a networking group.
Okay.
So for the first 6 months, I joined a networking group over Zoom where it was just small business owners all together in a room. We had a power minute where we spoke about our challenges right now and everyone chipped in. That's really, really valuable. Getting the input from other people going through the same things is very valuable. And if you've got, for example, in your group, you could have an accountant, you could have a lawyer, you could have a waste management company, a recruitment company that have all different challenges. So I might say, for example, I'm really struggling. People aren't paying my invoices on time. And that person in the networking group, so, well, are you setting your invoices to the right date? Or when are you sending them? If you send them on the day, they're probably not going to pay them on the day. If you send them a week in advance, they're probably going to pay sooner.
Also, something I've learned from listening to people, you should put late fees on the invoice.
In your contract,
you get more money even if they don't pay on time.
Exactly. But it's little things like that. So I would say you have to just get stuck in and learn it on the job. You can't really take a course on this stuff. You've just got to figure out as you go. And then you just end up learning it, and you end up being, you have loads of different skill sets.
No, but that networking group, I think, is like a massive takeaway. Moving on, like speaking to you off camera, I know that, we've spoken about success, what it looks like. and how it actually differs from person to person. Can you talk a little bit about how you define success, or why you feel people are defining success incorrectly?
Yeah, this is a huge topic for me. So success, first and foremost, is different for everybody. Every single person you talk to will have a different success level. Whether it be a podcast and you've got people that do the same thing as you, they might have goals up here, your goals might be down here. Yeah. Everyone's different. But what I found the first 12 months of this journey for me is I meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people that feel like they have to be doing stupid amounts of money every month to be successful. And it just brings them down. It drags them down. It's another reason why they quit after 12 months is they've got unrealistic expectations. So for me, it's like, and again, I'm just talking about myself. I've got 2 kids, a dog. I'm married. All I really need to worry about, can I pay my bills on time? Can I have a little bit left over for days out or holidays or making memories with my family? Can I save a little bit? Once you've done and ticked those boxes, yeah, it's nice to have more money, of course, brilliant. But really for me, it's like, that's my success level. Yeah. I don't need any more to be happy, because success for me equals happiness. It's all about being happy in life, and you've got to figure out what that number is. And it quite often, I hate to talk about numbers, but quite often it is about a number. You've got to work out in your head on a bit of paper, what do I need every month to do my bare minimum, to have a bit extra, to have fun, a bit of freedom, maybe a rainy day fund that you can always, a bit of security in the drawer, whatever it might be. And then you can say to yourself, well, if I get all of that, I'm gonna be hitting my goals. That's gonna be where I want to be. Yeah. So that's your success level. So you're aiming up here, which is going to take you years to achieve. You're putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, when really we've just determined that your success level's here. And people, this is the thing I see a lot of, and I did it myself for a number of months, is you then compare yourself constantly. This is another thing people need to really stop doing. Oh, I saw that tweet, I saw that post. God, I started at the same time as them. They've just posted they've got like 400,000 subscribers. Yeah. And then you go, oh, I'm doing a rubbish job. Yeah. Well, you're not doing a rubbish job because you've got your own goals. Do you know what I mean? You've got to stay in your lane. So success for me is very, very individual, and there's so many people with the wrong mindset around it. So my advice is just set your own expectations around what success is, and just write on a post-it note, stick it on your computer. And when you get there, enjoy it. That's where you are. That's where you need to be.
So do you feel like society... I think the word that comes to me is like lacks discipline. And the reason I say that is because everybody wants like a Rolex, or they want to wear like a Balenciaga t-shirt. But, based on what you've said there, maybe if you don't want to buy the flashy things, you can get to a modicum of success quicker. Yeah. But it's because people are trying to live outside of their means. Completely. They don't feel like they're generating the income required to be successful.
Completely, yeah. Like, true success comes from within, and a lot of people that are successful don't talk about the success. Yeah. There's a reason for that. It's because they don't need to. People that, and again, this is very individual. I don't want to kind of blanket this to say that everybody needs to feel this way. I'll just give my opinion on it. But it's, your cars, watches, your houses, your investments, your t-shirts, your trainers, right? We all like a little bit, we go through phases in life, right? We all have the phase, so we go through that. But you realise pretty quickly that materialistic things don't really do much.
100%.
At all, actually. Yeah. It gets boring quite quickly. And this is someone saying that's never had that kind of stuff, to be honest, right? Working in my job was very difficult to get past that. But it gets boring very quickly. It goes back to the success level. Again, what makes you happy? And a lot of people they might say, well, actually, materialistic cars and stuff make me really happy, and that's what I want to achieve. Family's going to go down here. I want to go through this phase, and that's fine. Yeah. But what I can guarantee you is 99% of people will get over that phase. Yeah. And they'll end up going back to basics and thinking, actually, wasn't that good, was it? What really makes me happy are things like spending good quality time with the kids or the family, making sure I'm achieving my goals, being present in the moment. How many people go home at night and they're still in work mode? Yeah. They're still thinking about that goal, that car, that watch. How am I going to get it? Yeah. When really, you've got everything you need just right in front of you. So I think maybe it's a mindset thing as well, but it's a phase. I don't think anyone you've got to go through it once to kind of realise.
You've got to go through it, but come out at the other end, and hopefully come out at the other end without spending too much needless money. we spoke about social media there, and yeah, like the role it plays, I suppose, in leading people into quitting.
Yeah.
You obviously, speaking to you off camera once again, you do a great job in advising people on like personal brand, how to build out a personal brand, and having kind of authority, is what you've mentioned previously. Can you talk to us a little bit about, like your approach to personal branding and why it's so important for people to have a personal brand?
Oh, completely, yeah. I think personal brand's a really interesting one because there's lots of gurus online that you'll watch and you'll listen to and you'll read, and they tell you all different things, which is quite confusing.
James ain't a guru, but he speaks the truth. So this guy, I'm calling him a guru, actually. He more than a guru.
I don't know about
He's
that.
He's a guru.
But yeah, what I've realised is like, and again, I could talk about this for a very long time, right? But you've got to have your goal at the beginning of the process. So if you want to build a personal brand that's going to drive authority to get you clients, you have to kind of position yourself slightly differently. Mm-hmm. But what I've realised is whatever you do, whatever direction you go down, people want to know who you are behind the business first. So you'll see a lot of posts on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are, talking about their business, their success, their numbers, their processes, how they deal with situations, which is great because there is a space for that. But I think for me, personal branding is very raw.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to people, I'm like, okay, I know what you do. It's great, but I don't really care what you do.
Yeah.
No, the reality is 99% of the audience is going to want to know, who are you behind the business? What are your hobbies? What do you like doing? What's your challenges? What have you overcome in your life? Because it's about connection. So I think personal branding for me is, how can you post something that's going to create a connection between you and the audience? I'll give you a quick example, right? I wrote a post on LinkedIn. And it took me quite a while, right? It was a really in-depth breakdown of how to find your ideal customer. So it was like 5-6 steps. Do this. I thought, right, this is going to help so many people.
Yeah.
It did like so below average. It's unbelievable. I was like, what's going on here? Yeah. I posted a picture of me and my son in the football cage saying, this is what I live for, playing with my kids, not going, all this kind of stuff. Through the roof.
Yeah.
Through the roof. And it's just a great example of the audience. Yeah, your authority's there. They want to know about that. But really, everything starts with the relationship. So I would say, break it down and just really focus on what makes you unique. And there's no limits to this or barrier. The more open you can be, the more raw you can be, the better progress you'll make. So you've got to really break it down and be brave.
So I love everything you've just said there. And I know that we've spoken about it because I've, spoken about posting, for myself about the podcast. But even with all the advice you've given me, I still haven't cracked it. So I suppose my question is, we could run through it now on camera. So for me, I look at LinkedIn as an example. I post every week to say, I've got a new episode out, which, like you said, to your point, nobody actually cares. I'm always thinking like you're ringing in my head, be vulnerable, be unique, but I just don't feel interested, I suppose. How do I, or more not, I don't feel interested. I feel like I'm repeating myself because I feel like my why is so niched. I've said it once. I don't want to say it again, the same thing again. How do I change my mindset to make me post more?
You've got to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think writing needs to be almost like therapy. That's quite a deep way of explaining it. But what I mean by that is you should never feel like writing a post is a chore.
Yeah.
And that's what you're feeling.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And do you know what it is? It's not that I feel like it's a chore. I just feel like, I suppose it is because it doesn't feel like me. But
yeah.
I'm trying to make it me, if that makes sense. And not in the sense that I need it. It's in the sense that I do feel like I have some interesting things to say. But when it comes to writing it, I'm like, this doesn't feel interesting. So, it's just a tough one for me.
Yeah, I think whatever you feel right now, there will be blockers.
Yeah.
You won't be acting your true 100% authentic self.
Yeah.
And that makes it more difficult to write that post or bit of content. I think you've got to be structured as well.
So I think this is what I'm missing.
Preparing is really important. part of the program that I run with some solopreneurs is we have like an engagement structure. So what we kind of teach them to do is at the beginning of a month, there's like 20 boxes on a bit of paper, and it's called like a posting planner. We want to just come to this session or whatever session we do really raw and just start to write ideas about all these different things that you have in your head. It could be vulnerability when posting. It could be a day out with the kids. It could be what makes you happy. It could be your hobby. It could be part of a podcast that went really well that you want to talk about.
Could be Manchester United losing again.
Yeah.
But we did win the FA Cup. Come on, my boy.
So yeah, and you'll find that once you start to plan better and you've got those 20 ideas at the beginning of the month, then you start to kind of be more invested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So keep it structured, block your calendar out, an hour a day if you want to take that long, and just start to just talk freely about those different subjects that you've planned to talk about. And you start to get into a habit, right? It's like 21 days or something. You do everything for 21 days and then it starts to become normal. So you just got to break that cycle.
So I think that is like a big thing. Like I have no structure. Like I'll have a thought in my head and I'm like, I need to get it down. But then I start articulating and I'm like, oh, I can't actually get out what's in my head. And then you like get demotivated. Yes. I think what you said there about having a structure is really helpful. Yeah. Where I want to go from there, like, it also matter about channel, right? Because I feel some people get overwhelmed and think, I need to post on LinkedIn, I need to post on Twitter, I've got to stay up to date on Instagram, I've got to stay up to date on TikTok. Like, what is your approach to the channels or your advice to people who feel like they need to be everywhere?
I think it's really important to focus probably 90% of your efforts in the channel where your potential clients or potential prospects hang out. Okay. So if you're someone that does B2B services, it's going to be LinkedIn. If you're a fitness coach, it's probably going to be Instagram. So I would say as well, give one channel all your effort and don't worry about all the other channels at the minute. You can always, you can incorporate them as you go along. But what you don't want to do is dilute your impact. You know, if you start to think, I've got to do Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, that's a lot of work. But what you might find is that your audience isn't.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But I'm not surprised you're not writing posts. So it's, you know, you just be smart. And again, it goes back to solving the immediate problem, right? It's like, I want to build a brand on Instagram, but that's going to be my success in 2 years when it starts taking off. Yeah. I'm not going to get results tomorrow, am I, with that? Like, the problems I solve are with this audience on this platform. That's where my attention goes. And it will start, I think you then start to naturally evolve. When you start to get a bit more security and your business is running, it's flowing, you're doing well, well, then you might say, well, I'm going to take a day on Thursday, all day, and I'm going to start to now repurpose it onto Instagram. Yeah. When you start to dilute it too much, I find that you lose that sense of direction. It's all a bit messy in your head. And when it becomes messy, you start to lose interest pretty quickly. Yeah. Just focus on that channel where your audience is the most important thing, I would say.
Okay. I feel like I needed that counselling session live on camera. If you see an uptick, you know what's happened. I've taken his advice. If not, you know I'm not taking it properly.
We'll be keeping an eye out, mate, on your face now.
Something I always love to ask people on this podcast, you know, running your own business, it can get very hectic. Do you have any productivity hacks?
Structuring my calendar is really important. This is a really good point, actually, because you can get very overwhelmed very quickly. So I would say, again, some people don't like doing this, but I think it's really, really powerful, is break down what you need to achieve in a day. So for me, I've got like client fulfillment, content and marketing. And there might be something in there, for example, I don't know, credit control or something like that I would kind of say is an everyday thing. So I just structure it. So every 9 till 10, every day, that's what I focus on. 3 till 4, I do that. 4 till 5, I do this. That really helps me because then you know that like the most important things, most important tasks are getting done every single day. Yeah. The rest will kind of just start to, you know, you'll just kind of fit them in. But until you start seeing trends, then you can just add it into your calendar and then start to kind of work that way. Yeah. I found that really effective because, like I said, there's lots of different hats you've got to wear. Become very overwhelming if you're not structured. So calendar for me is a really big one.
I love that. And knowing you, I know that, you don't typically work Fridays, but I'm still going to ask, do you feel like you have a good work-life balance? Like, what's your approach to having that work-life balance?
Yeah, I don't work Fridays, and people, it's funny, I'll tell you a very quick story about this.
Please do.
So when I worked for someone, I did a bit of consultant work for a software company when I first started, and I kind of openly, bearing in mind I was fulfilling what I was there to do, I was doing all the jobs, everything was good. I think I contracted 2 days a week. So I was 3 days on my own, 2 days with them. So they found out about my Friday being off to spend with my little one. And I got a call from one of the people there saying, you know, we just think it's a bit, you know, seeing that you're off on a Friday with your kids is a bit, I don't know, it's a bit like you're taking the mick a bit.
What?
Yeah, this is the thing, right? This is the mentality of, not the majority of the corporate environment, but a lot of the mentality of people that work in that space is, well, if we're working it, we're paying you. You shouldn't be doing that. And yeah, it's mad when you think about it, right? I'm working for you for 2 days. I'm fulfilling what I'm doing with you, but you still had to make a comment that I was off on a Friday. It's crazy. But yeah, so I decided I take Fridays off. A couple of reasons. First one, my wife's got the kids all week. Hardest job you'll ever have in your life, right? So she needs a day to be able to kind of refresh and just get herself back, feeling like a human. Yeah. So we decided this year that she would take a Friday. She gets to just kind of press the reset button, and I spend time with the little ones. So it's a win-win. So yeah, I do that on a Friday.
I love it.
Which is great. So my work-life balance has never been better. And it's not a brag because it's still very, very tough. But bearing in mind I worked in London for 3 years solid, commuting 6 hours a day, it's like I'm not missing this new one, bringing up this new baby. I miss quite a lot of my eldest doing that. So yeah, I make it a big thing now. Like work-life balance is huge for me.
And because of it, do you feel like is burnout something you've ever suffered from?
I wouldn't say, but yeah, actually, do you know what? During those really hard days, I'd say so. Because you never leave the working environment. When you're working so much and you're traveling so much, your brain's always there. So I've experienced it. And it's not good because you're not, if someone asks you a question, what'd you say? Because you're thinking of other things. And for me now, looking back at that, that's the worst place I could ever be now. Not present in the moment. So yeah, I probably have experienced it. And coming up to London one day every 2 weeks now is like an absolute struggle for me. Bearing in mind I did it every day for 3 years. So I've realised actually it's, I really value it. So burnout is something you want to avoid as much as possible.
Okay, I love it. James, where, obviously money isn't the centre of what you do, but where do you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years?
Do you know, I think I put a post about this yesterday. I don't know if you saw it or not. I said there's 2 things. So the post was, right, I've got very simple goals in life. It's not to become a millionaire. It's not for recognition. I don't want awards. There's 2 things. One is to fulfill my potential, and the second is to be a great role model for my kids. And when you're growing a business and you're seeing success in your business, there's lots of different emotions that go around your head, right? You think, I could scale this. I could get staff members. I could build a team, and I've had this argument with myself a lot, and it's like, yeah, you could do that, but it goes back to the success thing, right? I've got everything I ever need now. I don't need any more. I don't want to do any more. So for me in 5 years, I still want to be happy. I want to be the same work-life balance. I want to be making sure I'm working with people that I can get amazing results for, because that's a true business as well. It's not about your revenue. It's about what your clients are making off the back of your services, right? So I want really great clients in a niche where I become a niche expert. I can pick and choose who I work with, but I don't see much changing, to be honest.
Okay. No plans for a book?
In the future, so maybe end of this year, next year, I want to maybe step into the podcast world, mate, join you, what you're doing, and talk about this stuff in a bit more depth. Yeah, and I think maybe a book down the line. It's, like I say, writing is very therapeutic. Yeah. And I think I've got a fair bit to share, I think. So I think it would be quite interesting to do that in the future, but nothing too soon.
I love that. And just before we get into the quick fire round, to anybody who's listening to this, and we've said it before, what would your key piece of advice be? A key takeaway from this conversation be?
I think trust yourself. It's a real simple one, but just you'd be so surprised what you can achieve if you just trust yourself. And try and separate yourself from what you feel society's telling you. Be secure, get a job, don't ever leave it until you're safe. Like, the more you stay in that mindset, the harder it's going to be to achieve. So anything from this conversation, I just want people to potentially take a little bit of inspiration of well, James did it and he's nothing special, so maybe I could do it if I just trusted myself and went for it.
I was about to stop, but I've got another question.
Okay.
What happens if, you're saying trust yourself?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people who are under pressure from family, from partners. Like, I suppose you always had the support. I mean, you've been married like a long time.
Yeah.
You've been with your partner a long time, so you know each other in and out. To those people who they don't feel like they have that support, I suppose, what would you say to them?
Do you know what, though? That is such a good question, because I went through this at the beginning of the journey. Even if you have the most tight-knit family in the world, right? Partner that's so supportive, family members so supportive, those people will never really give you what you need anyway in business, because they're not in it for that. You're their son, their brother, a partner. They didn't end up being with you because they thought you were going to be this great business owner, and they can't wait to listen to your stories every day. They've got their own jobs, stresses, pressures. And I realised actually quite early on that, don't rely on other people to give you what you need to be successful. Actually, the more that you can keep to yourself and try and solve within the situation, i.e. joining a network group, talk till the cows come home to those people, because they're in the space. You can get loads from that. I always think that you want to try and keep that kind of stuff separate. So if you haven't got people like a partner or a really strong family to help and support you through the journey, I would say don't worry about it, if I'm honest, because just go and find people that are like-minded and just join a group or talk to a friend, someone that will give you a bit of time. The thing for me that I think could definitely halt progress is if you rely too much on your support, of your mum and your dad and your brothers and sisters, and I just want to talk to them about all the things that are going on. Sometimes you just got to deal with it and just go for it and learn it. But I do think a support network is important, and still talk to your friends and family, like, of course, but they're probably not going to give you what you'll need from a business point of view, because they're not in it for that. I want to talk to you about the day and what they'll do. So find the balance, really important.
I love it. James, this has been such a great conversation. We do have a quick fire round.
Yep,
you ready
go for
this?
it.
I'm going to get my phone now. Flexi schedule or set routine?
Set routine.
Difficult high-paying client or easy low-paying clients?
Difficult high-paying client. You learn way too much failing with them.
Money or happiness?
Happiness, 100%.
Handle everything yourself or outsource tasks?
Handle everything myself.
Favourite quote?
There's a quote, I can't remember who said this quote, and essentially it says, being underestimated is a gift. Stop trying to prove yourself and take action, or something like that.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Spend money on tools or on learning new skills?
Learn a new skill.
Love it. Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Oh, past 100%. Future is not interesting to me.
Who has it easier, men or women?
Both.
Okay.
I can't pick on them two. Both different challenges.
Yeah, I love it. And dream dinner guest?
Jurgen Klopp.
Oh my God! He's just...
the guy that led our team to beat you 7-0, I think it was, wasn't it, a couple of years ago?
It was. And look, what a way to close the podcast. No, we do actually close with a closing tradition.
Yeah.
So knowing everything you know now, what advice would you give your younger self? And would you still be doing the same thing?
I'd probably give myself some advice of slow down at times. But saying that, I feel like everything happens for a reason in life. Yeah, it would probably be slow down slightly. Like I say, don't try and just run for the success. Take it easy.
Yeah.
And would I be in the same position? Probably not, to be honest. I think...
you would have been a footballer?
Yeah. I did. Well,
you
know what? I need to speed up. I was going to be a footballer. I was so slow. But yeah, I think,
slow down.
That would probably be it. Slow down. Don't have as many high expectations. You'll save yourself years of pain and torture. Just go through the process.
I love it. James, this has been a really great conversation. Where can people find you if they want to learn a bit more about you and what you do? Yeah,
so LinkedIn is where I post predominantly about myself, the business, my story, that kind of thing. So James Caldecott on LinkedIn, also on Twitter quite regularly, which is at Scale with James. You'll find me there. That's kind of the two places you're probably going to find me. So feel free to follow.
Perfect. I love that. And guys, if you've made it to this point in the show, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, at WMBFD Pod. This has been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Over and out.